Hey, welcome back guys. So today on this video, we're talking about writing a check, and more specifically, we're going to go through the different steps on how to fill out a paper check. So let's go ahead and talk about this. First off, if you're not familiar with a paper check, possibly you just opened up your very first bank account and aren't sure exactly what information you're supposed to include on the check. So that's what we're going to go over. We're also going to go over the information that's on the check and what it includes. So in order to fill out a check, there's usually about 6 different steps that you're going to go through. And sometimes these days, payments are really easy with things like Cash App, Venmo, debit cards, Apple Pay, all these different types of payments. However, some folks still only accept checks. They won't accept cash, they won't accept electronic payments. So you do need to know how to fill out and complete a paper check. So here are the steps that I usually do when I'm filling out a paper check. So first off, you want to go ahead and put the date. So for example, today is the 31st of October as I'm filming this video. So you can write it however you like. I usually just add the numbers. So I would do something like this, 10/31/2019. And the reason I do that is just because it takes a long time to write out the full name of the month. You can, if you like to do that, just make sure you fit it into this little area right here. Once you filled out the date on the paper check, next you want to fill out the payee. So this is going to be the person you're going to be writing the check out to. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a company. Make sure that you write it out exactly as they request it, because if there's a problem with them cashing the check, if the name doesn't match up exactly, then it can cause more of a headache and more problems for you. So for example, if you're writing it out to somebody named Sean, make sure you have the correct spelling if it's S-E-A-N or S-H-A-W-N. And also the names of companies can be kind of confusing as well, especially when you're paying, let's say, another financial institution, because sometimes they do have the generally known name. So let's say Chase Bank. However, on the check itself, possibly they may need to put Chase Bank N.A. So again, talk to whoever you're writing the check out to, ask them how you would want to write that out, because that is a specific function. So we'll go ahead and just put in Target right here as if we were paying Target, the company. And then usually what I'll do after that is I'll go ahead and put a line afterwards. And that way, whoever has this check afterwards, they can't add something in. So for example, if I wrote it out to just John, later on somebody can write it out to John Thompson instead of John Johnson. So that would be a completely different person. And by putting a line through it, that just helps avoid any kind of mistakes or any kind of fraud in the future. So that's the second step. The third step is how much are you going to be paying this person? And you're going to write that numerically right here. So you want to be sure to put all digits of the number in there, and then also add in any necessary commas or decimal points. So for example, if you're going to be making this out to Target for $99, usually what I'll do is I'll put the 0.00 after, and what that does is it helps avoid anyone from adding in numbers later. Because if you're paying someone $9, the last thing you want to do is them writing out the check for $9,000. That can create some issues later, especially if it's committing fraud. So we'll go ahead and just make this out for $9. All right, so that's how I normally do it. And that way, whoever receives this check afterwards, it's pretty difficult for them to kind of doctor this up and add in any numbers. So I'll just put 9 and then the decimal point and then 00 over 100. Or if it's 55 cents, I would just put 55 over 100. And that same thing here, I'll normally put a dash, and that way it helps avoid anyone from adding any numbers to the end of that dollar amount. The third thing you want to do is add in the dollar amount in numbers. So this is a nice feature of checks, and that once again is just to help prevent fraud. So what you want to do is go ahead and write this out. So we'll write $9, and I'll write that out right here, $9. All right, I went ahead and wrote in $9. And then what you want to do next is write in the cents or the amount of partial dollars. So this one is 0. So usually what I'll do is I'll put and the symbol, and then I'll put 00 over 100, or you can put X's right here on the top since it's 0, or if it's 55, just write 55. And then same thing, put a line through it, and that way it's really difficult for anyone to add any numbers in afterwards. So that's the next step, writing in the check amount in words, in written form. Step number 5, this isn't actually required, but I normally add it in, once again, just to help prevent any kind of fraud. Or also when you reference back on the check, you can look in the memo and know what it was for. So for example, if you're at Target, you obviously know you spent $9 at Target. Maybe later on down the line, you want to go ahead and know what that was for. So let's say you were buying a pack of gum, or maybe you were buying some pens for the office. Go ahead and just write that in there, and you don't have to write out a long sentence, just something that you know you will remember when you look back on this check. So I'll just put pens for office. All right, so again, it is completely optional, but I would highly recommend that you write that in, and it helps you remember what it was for. And lastly, you want to go ahead and sign the check right here. Now, when you set this account up, whether it was Chase or Wells Fargo or Bank of America, you want to be sure to use the same signature that they have on file with your signature card, because it is possible that the check gets kicked back if your signature does not match. So if you normally just sign your first name, sign only your first name. If you normally sign your full name, sign your full name. Whatever's going to match with what you had at the bank. So I'll go ahead and just sign this right now. And there is your signature. So that is how you fill out a check. Now on the back of the check, there's not really anything for you to do. That is going to be for the person who accepts the check. They will want to endorse the back of the check. And then also just a brief rundown on what information is here on the check. Usually this is going to be your routing number. It's 9 digits. Sometimes the routing number is here in the middle, but usually it's here on the left side. This is usually going to be your account number with that bank. And then the last number is usually the check number. And the check number is also written here on the top corner of the check. If you can, try to use the checks in numeric order, and that way it helps you keep track of them. You don't necessarily need to. In fact, there's plenty of times that I've done otherwise. I have a checkbook in the car and a checkbook at home, and I'll just use whichever one's available. The only problem is it gets a little confusing when you're trying to look at all the transactions throughout the year. And then lastly, up here at the top left is usually going to be your name or your company name and your address that is on file with the bank, and then your phone number if you elected to put that on there. So there you have it. That is how to complete a paper check. If I missed anything or if you have any questions, be sure to leave me a comment below. But hopefully you found the video useful. If so, click thumbs up, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching.